All right, everybody. Welcome to week 8 of the PVG football podcast. Dr. Greek here and our beloved co-host,
What's up?
Persian
What's up?
Pinocchio.
What's up?
One, Arash. How's it going, buddy?
Good. I expected the Ravens to win, and luckily I
Mm-hmm.
picked up Isaiah Likely and stay patient on Kenny and Drake because I had a
Yeah,
feeling that
yeah. I dropped him. And I was like,
I
oops.
I didn't I didn't play him because I was like, you didn't
Yeah,
know what was gonna happen, but I had a
yeah.
feeling that Drake was gonna have he has one good game, one bad game, one good game, one bad
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
and I felt like this might be a good game, but didn't have enough
Mm-hmm.
faith to play him. But at least I held on to him, and
Yeah. And looks, depending on the severity of Mark Andrews' injury from last night, I mean, Isaiah Likely is going to be a big pickup for everybody.
yeah,
He looked good. He looked good. I mean, I know that he
I
was kind of had some buzz in the preseason, right? But he
yeah,
wasn't really around. But now he's going to have some value here in this offense, especially because Lamar loves to throw to his tight ends. So,
they don't even use their wide receivers that much,
yeah. Yeah.
I
Rashad Bateman had a 0, and then he went out with a injury. I know Devin Duvernay's been good. So
I
he had a
played
touchdown.
I played
So,
Duvernay in a couple leagues, so that was good. In one league, I traded Bateman,
mhm.
Miles Sanders. I ended up playing Bateman and Duvernay got me some points, and Bateman got me a zero.
Yeah, nobody likes those zeros. I know
Uh,
yesterday was kind of rough. Like for people, like there was a matchup in our league where someone had Mark Andrews and they only got like a few points because he went out with injury, and then Bateman didn't have a catch, and then he went out with injury. So
yeah, I really
yeah, it
should
was
have
one of
picked.
those days.
I only have Andrews in like a few leagues, but I should have picked up likely in all of the leagues that I picked it up in a couple only like a couple leagues, but I'm happy I did. So
Yeah, yeah, and the Bucks look. Mike Evans looks like he's still doing things. Julio Jones had a sighting. But Brady, spiking the ball in the dirt. Looks like, his personal life has really kind of gotten to him this year.
I think Giselle gave him an ultimatum like quit or we're getting a divorce. Brady's pride is
Too
much
prideful. He
too
wanted to.
prideful. Doesn't look like they're going even to the
It's
playoffs.
going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, their division's pretty weak. I mean, they got Atlanta. I mean, everybody in their division's under 500. So Carolina beats Atlanta this week. They're going to be in first place.
I think Carolina's gonna win.
NFC South is, I honestly think maybe the Saints could have a chance. It seems like they have some skilled players. They started to bench Jameis Winston, and now they're going with Andy Dalton.
But they
So
played the Raiders this week, so that's probably a loss.
the Saints defense has given up a lot of points, and the Raiders are looking, like they're starting to find themselves, with Josh Jacobs running the ball. And
Taking the ball out of Derek Carr's hands.
yeah, the 49ers and the LA Rams, big week here for the Niners. After last week's, they were in it, for 3 quarters, and then Mahomes was just too good, and they ended up losing that game in a blowout. But I think, Christian McCaffrey, he looked good in the limited snaps he got. We talked about him getting between 5 and 10 carries, or plays basically, and he got exactly 10 touches. So he's gonna be a lot more involved, especially because Debo looks like might be out with a hamstring injury or might be limited in the game. So I can see McCaffrey having a huge role this week. The Niners need this game to stay, at the top of the division. If they lose this game, they're going to be in trouble because they're going to be behind Seahawks potentially 2 games and behind the Rams a game and a half, and they won't have the tiebreaker anymore on the Rams. So it's a big week for the Niners. What do you think is going to play out?
I think Niners are gonna win. In the regular season, they haven't lost to the Rams in like 3 or 4 seasons. So it's
Yeah,
like the Rams that aren't looking that good. Their offense isn't looking that good. Their defense is playing well, but
yeah.
the Niners always kind of blow up on the Rams whenever they play each other.
Should be an interesting game.
Yeah,
Hopefully the Niners pull out the win. I know they're getting their center. The Rams are getting their center back, Brian Allen. So that's going to be an upgrade for them on the offensive line, which they've been missing.
I grew up a Niners fan, but kind of went to the dark side and became a
Yeah.
Raiders fan like Darth Vader.
You're still a Niners fan, but you're technically a Raiders fan more at this point. So you're
Yeah.
kind of like between the dark and the light, huh? There's still a chance maybe Luke
There was
Skywalker comes around and brings you back, but right now you're hanging with
I
the
don't know.
dark side,
When
huh?
you play fantasy football, like you start liking more than one team, It's
Yeah,
like
that's true to that.
I don't like putting all my eggs in one basket because I like football too much. And I have multiple teams I like. I like the Bills, I like the
Hmm.
Ravens, I like,
Yeah.
you
Well, you
know,
like Josh Allen, like,
I like
I think,
Josh Allen, I like
yeah.
Lamar Jackson,
So
I like
a little bit.
Cincinnati, I like Burrow, and
It's
kind of
true.
like,
When you get into fantasy football, you kind of like get more into the players and
yeah,
you
I
know
have the
you have your team affiliation, but you kind of root for certain guys because you just like how they play and you respect how they play.
I have the Burrow Chase stack in like a few leagues,
Yeah, that's gonna
which
hurt now.
which in the beginning like it wasn't doing well, and then my teams were struggling, and then the last few weeks I got like 3 wins in a row, and then now Chase is out four to
Yeah,
six
Chase is
weeks.
gonna be out 4 to 6 weeks, maybe longer. They're saying out indefinitely. So hopefully, he gets back, he gets healthy because he started to take off, having some really good games.
It'd be
Um,
interesting to see who's gonna take that division now with the injury. Cincinnati's playing really strong, but Baltimore's getting out of their own
hang in
way.
there. Yeah,
And they were thinking about going for a 4th and 1. And
yeah,
I was like, don't do it.
yeah, yeah,
They just kicked the field goal and they did the smart thing and
yeah.
trying to put the
Finally.
game away. Yeah.
Like they
It's
didn't
like,
do that. They didn't kick the field goal at the end of the half, and that could have cost them. You take
yeah,
the points when you can. Like I don't
yeah.
know what the coaches are doing now. Like, you take
Like
the points, especially that early in the game. You don't just go for it every single time. I mean, there's certain situations where you go for it. Maybe it's a short or it's a longer field goal and you may not be able to kick it. So I
especially when
mean,
Tampa's having so much trouble scoring,
yeah, yeah. You just take your points and like, look, they almost got another field goal. I mean, they just think if they would have got the field goal and then they come back and then they get the ball back, and they would have actually more time to do if they would have done the field goal because when they did the fourth down play, they lost some more time off the clock too because they didn't get it all the way. So they lost
Yeah.
another like 30 seconds. And so you know, if they just kick the field goal there, they get the ball back because they stopped Tampa, and then they've got more time, and they probably kick another field goal, and then they're down 10-9, right? And then they're in a lot better position. So not managing the clock, not managing the game situation. So sometimes it bugs me with all the analytics and going for it on fourth down. Like when you just do the right play, get the points, and as the game plays on, you end up
That
those points end up mattering,
the
most of the
analytic
time.
the analytics doesn't put into effect like, is this team playing well? Is this team
Yeah.
like have a good offense? Does this team like struggling to score points? Like that, none of that shit comes into.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly. They're just
that
looking at the statistics. They're not looking at the game flow. They're not looking at the actual game and what they're playing in. They're like
it,
making a decision based on some numbers,
yeah,
percentages, and not thinking like, okay, well, their Tampa's having trouble. So if we just keep putting some points on the board, we're going to win this game. And that's exactly what ended up playing out in the second half.
before like football had been played one way for so long, like
Mm-hmm.
like go with your gut, like what does your instincts tell you? Take the points, this team's struggling to score, like none of that, like I don't know, it's just the analytics goes totally against going with your instincts and going with your gut and
Yeah.
how football has been played for like 50 years, and it's like, what are we doing? Like,
Baseball is a big analytic sport, right? And
yeah.
look at baseball. It's like the popularity is not what it used to be. Look at the Giants, for instance, San Francisco Giants. They're all about the analytics. They're like constantly platooning players. It's just like it's like unwatchable. You don't even want to watch the games anymore because it's like these lefty righty matchups constantly. Like, don't get me started on baseball, but obviously I've got
No,
some issues with
you're
that.
totally right, Dr. Greek. Like
Yeah.
it takes the fans out of the equation. Like
Yeah.
fans are like, okay, we're they're doing strategy too. It's like, Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so Tampa's struggling to score. Let's kick the field goal. Let's take the points. Distancing themselves from the fans, and it just took the fans out of the equation of being on the same page with the strategy and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just it is hurting the watchability of these swords. And I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely affects how we enjoy, because like we, at home we're thinking about what should be done, and then when it's like going against what you've been watching for years and years, and you're like, oh yeah, this is just hard to watch. These decisions make it so bad. So let's get into a little bit on the preview of week 8. This is it, like let's get into some games. Like last week, we were on fire, man. Like a lot of our predictions came true. We were right on a lot of games. We kind of like blasted a little bit on our IG page, like, hey, look at what we were talking about, like, so let's get right into it. Niners and the Rams. I think the Niners really need this game, and I think they're going to come through and get the win. The Raiders and New Orleans. I mean,
Yeah, I think it was partly part of the reason I became a Raiders fan with their theme song, the Autumn Wind. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah,
yeah. Growing up, that was it, right? You're watching John Madden on the sideline, and you're like, all right, the Raiders, right?
yeah.
So yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. We got the Patriots and the Jets this week. I know the last week Bill Belichick made a mess with his quarterback situation. He starts Mac Jones and then he pulls him after the ball hits a wire and it gets intercepted. Did you see that angle? They're saying that it hit the camera wire, the sky cam wire, and that's why it got intercepted. But he's kind of messing with the mojo. He had Bailey Zappi and he was like winning games, and then he decides, like, let's bring in Mac Jones, and then he sits Mac Jones, and then Bailey Zappi looked terrible. So now we're back to Mac Jones as the starter. So what do you think about Bill Belichick's management of that whole situation last week?
He went against what his formula that works. Go with the hot hand and stick with the guy that's getting you playing better and getting you wins. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're gonna get stomped this week. I think the Jets, they still remember last year when Patriots were up 40 points, and in the fourth quarter they're throwing the ball
Yeah.
and like throwing 40-yard bombs. And it's like the Jets are gonna take that into account and
Yeah.
see blood in the water and really take it to the Patriots this week.
Yeah, I mean the Jets are playing great defense right now. They really are. I mean, they had a huge week against Aaron Rodgers a couple weeks ago. And then last week, they didn't allow Denver to score pretty much the whole game. I mean, they got 9 points. So uh, you know, I think the Jets are playing great defense. They got Saleh, who's a great defensive coach. I mean, he did really well with the Niners when he was here. And, but I do think New England has, the defense, Zach Wilson's going to struggle against New England. So I don't see it being a high scoring game, but I do see the Jets, they're just a better defense at this point, and they have a better running game. I know Breece Hall got hurt, which is a bummer because he was having such a great season as a rookie. And so now they traded for James Robinson. He's probably not going to get many carries if he's even active at all. But I think Michael Carter's going to be heavily involved. And then, I know that
I
Corey Davis is out. So Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore is going to be back in the mix to catch some balls. I know that he's been a little disgruntled,
you
but
can't you can't really trust the Jets receivers because they don't throw the
no,
ball enough.
no.
They're all about running the ball. And
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's gonna be like you said, Michael Carter is gonna have a good game, and
Yeah.
Ty Johnson's gonna get some carries, and
Yes,
they
definitely.
might sprinkle in James Robinson with a couple touches, but he's not worth. You can't play him this week.
No, I
Uh,
would I would definitely sit James Robinson this week and just see,
yeah,
kind of just get a feel for what his role in the offense is going to be. On the New England side of the ball, they've got Ramondre Stevenson, who is probably one of the only offensive guys that I would play. Look, last week they kind of were going back and forth series to series with him and Damien Harris, but Ramondre just is the better player at this point. So I'm not
Yeah.
really trusting Damien Harris. I mean, I think he only had like a couple of points compared to like Ramondre had like 20 plus. So, I would continue riding with him, and the Patriots are kind of hit and miss with the receivers. I know Jacoby Myers played well with Zappy, so we'll see now with Mac Jones if he's going to be involved as much or if it's going to be somebody else. So,
I'm
like
s- I'm
Devontae
sitting
Parker.
I'm sitting all the Patriots receivers this week because you don't know what you're gonna get with Mac
Yeah.
Jones, and I
Yeah. I would
I
just play
I have
Ramondre.
I have more faith in Bailey Zappi at this point than Mac Jones. You know,
Yeah.
Zappy hour.
Zappy hour
It's
for
always Zappy hour.
So the Cowboys this week are playing the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Coming off a big win on Monday night against the Patriots. Justin Fields looked pretty good running the ball. He doesn't throw for much, but he might get lucky here and there with a deep pass from him because he does throw the deep ball pretty well. And he does run the ball. So I mean, in fantasy, he's
I,
viable, like
I picked
he's
up Fields in a few leagues. He does know when to run and when not to run. And
yeah,
so I think
yeah.
Chicago's
And
like committed to using his
yeah,
legs more. And
they have been. They're doing more designed outside runs for him, doing the what did you call it? The everybody left run or
student body left,
student body
student body
left.
right.
That's it. Student body. So they were using that play a little bit for him. So Zeke is dealing with a knee injury now. So he may not play. So Tony Pollard, man, he's gonna have a big week.
Tony Pollard is gonna have it go off this week.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky I have him in some leagues. I think I have him in our league.
He's going to have a big game. I would play him
Yeah.
and everywhere you can and daily. And also the Cowboys defense is going to have a good day. I mean, I think Micah
Yeah.
Parsons is that dude, and
I
it's going
think
to be tough for Chicago to score points.
I still think the Bears have a chance to win this game because
You do.
yeah, Cowboys struggled.
So yeah, the Cowboys did struggle with Jalen Hurts when they played him, and he's mobile like Justin Fields. I know Hurts is a little bit more accurate as far as being able to make the decisions and quick decisions and throwing the ball downfield, but they could struggle with Justin Fields, especially
They
if he's running the ball.
the Eagles neutralized Micah Parsons.
Going
Just
right at him, right? It was like making
just
him
just
the decision maker, kind
just
of like what the
going
Chiefs did last
just
week to
just
Bosa.
not even they didn't even try to block him. They just threw right
Yeah,
around him
exactly.
and so
That's what the Chiefs did to Bosa last week. They wouldn't block him. They made him the guy that made the decisions, and they would just run right by him.
I
So
think I think the Eagles started a new trend of
don't block the best player.
yeah,
How does that make sense?
just just throw it right around them. They motioned the guy like a couple times, and then Michael Parsons was like, "Who do I get? Like the motion guy or Hurts?"
Exactly.
And Hurts would just wait till the guy passed Parsons and just throw it right to him, and it would be a big gain.
Yeah. Maximize that matchup. He didn't beat them
So
by
I think the
putting him
Bears,
in the action, right?
I think the Bears are going to do the same thing, have a chance to win this game.
So low scoring game, you think then? Because I mean,
Yeah,
Chicago did trade Robert Quinn, so they're not going to be as strong on the pass rush. We'll see how that affects them. So I don't know. Roquan Swift's been playing great, so
yeah.
we'll see how that plays out. He was disappointed that they traded Robert Quinn. Another potential shootout with the Miami Dolphins and the Detroit Lions. I think that's going to be a big fantasy game for everybody. I
Yeah,
don't know what the over under is on it, but it's going over. I don't even know the
yeah,
number, but it's
yeah,
going over. That I feel like that's going to be a high scoring game. There's going to be like Jared Goff, hopefully Amon St. Brown plays, DeAndre Swift is probably going to play on Miami side. Tyreek Hill, Waddle, Tua is going to be hopefully not running headfirst into people
yeah.
like he did last week. But and then Raheem Mostert is my like play of the week. Like I think I can say that he's probably going to break off at least one or two long touchdown runs. That's going to be my fantasy prediction this week. Raheem Mostert bringing
Right.
it back to those Niners days where he would break those long runs. So
I picked him up. I picked him up in a few leagues right before he went off, so I got lucky with that. But
yeah,
I do like Mostert to have a good game. I do like Swift to also have a good game, but
Hmm.
I think he's healthy finally, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping Amon-Ra St. Brown. This week was kind of like the medical doctor took him out of the game because he was
Yeah.
showing signs of
Concussion.
concussion,
Hmm.
but they said he didn't even have a concussion, but just because he just looked a little woozy, that's a new rule that they take him out, and that hurt a lot of my fantasy football teams
Yeah.
because he only had one catch for like 4 yards. So
Yeah, that was a rough showing for Amon St. Brown. I know that we were hopeful that he'd had come in and have a good game last week, even though it was against the Cowboys. But Cowboys really shut down Jared Goff last week. I mean, that was a rough outing.
I still believe in Dan Campbell and what they're doing in
Hmm.
Detroit. They're better off getting the first pick and getting the best quarterback available in the draft next year. Jared Goff's not the answer. He played good for like 2 games and then came back to earth like Carson
Yeah, if you
Wentz.
pressure him, yeah, he struggles. It's like all that tier of quarterback, right? You got kind of
Yeah,
like the
Carson Wentz.
great, and then you got like kind of like the mediocre guys,
Yeah,
and I would definitely put like Garoppolo in that category, like Garoppolo, Goff, Wentz, like all those guys,
Baker
Matt
Mayfield.
Ryan. Yeah, just kind of like they'll make some plays here and there, but then they'll make kind of like the stupid mistake, or they won't read the defense properly and make the right throw or the right read. So what Jared Goff is, and he can make plays, he can do those things, and I know last week what it was Khalif Raymond, I want to say, was the one that kind of got some of the play. He led the receiving after Amon-Ra St. Brown went out. So we'll see this week if Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't play, then Khalif Raymond might be a name of a guy to pick up and plug in as a potential fantasy starter.
Yeah,
So
Josh Reynolds didn't do it. He had no
no,
catches either. It was a tough week for
it's
the
a
Detroit
tough week for the
receivers.
Detroit. Yeah, for sure. The Cardinals and the Vikings, and another potentially great fantasy game. I mean, last week, Cardinals were in a shootout. I know Vikings were on a bye, but Vikings tend to score a lot of points with Jefferson and Cook and Kirk Cousins. Say what you may, but he does do well in fantasy. He does, get the ball out to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. So I can see this game being another high scoring game. I think the Vikings are going to win. They're going to go to 6-1 now. So Vikings look like they kind of own that division this year, and they got decent defense, and they've got
I think it's
the
gonna be
offensive players.
close. I think Cardinals could win this game since DeAndre Hopkins came back. They're looking a little bit better. Their defense doesn't look good, but
DeAndre Hopkins, man, he's a target hog, man. He's going to soak them up. So definitely the guy that you want to play in your fantasy league, because he's going to get a ton of targets again. And him and Justin Jefferson are going to go back and forth. I think it's going to be a big receiving day for both guys. So I do think Minnesota's going to win the game because Arizona's still a little dysfunctional, but the only guy I'm really comfortable with on Arizona is Hopkins. Potentially the tight end, right, too, because Arizona's been really bad against the tight end. So Irv Smith Jr. is another like a sleeper play, I would say, at
yeah, I
tight
picked
end if you have
him.
any tight ends on buys. So I would look into picking him up and plugging him in or playing him in daily as a alternative option if you need a tight end.
Yeah, that was my go-to option when
Mm-hmm.
I had Everett in a lot of leagues, and he's on by.
Steelers versus the Eagles. That's going to be a
uh,
blowout.
Yeah,
It's like the battle of the North, right? Like the gritty cities, Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia. Philadelphia is going to be too much. I mean,
yeah,
I can see this game being a blowout. Probably two touchdown lead for Philadelphia in this game to win going away, and Jalen Hurts
Battle of
have
Pennsylvania.
can see Jalen Hurts having a big game. I think he's number one play as far as quarterbacks go this week. I think he's going to have a huge game.
I think the Philadelphia receivers are kind of hard to trust. Like who's gonna have the game? It's like they have so
Mm-hmm.
many choices. It's kind of
Yeah,
it's kind of tough to.
yeah. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, or are they going to throw to Dallas Goedert? The tight end.
Or
I
Quez
mean,
Watkins.
mhm.
Yeah,
I really think you just gotta you play all those guys because they're gonna put up points. So you just don't know who's gonna who's gonna go
Yeah.
off. But I think you just got to play AJ Brown. You got to play Devontae Smith. You got to play Dallas Goedert. And, to hope
Def-
that they're the guy that gets the touchdown, right? So,
Definitely play Dallas Goddard. Is this the week Devontae's gonna go off? Is this the week
mm,
AJ? Yeah, you have to play AJ Brown.
George Pickens, man, that guy makes plays. That guy
George
makes
Pickens.
plays. So I would consider playing him because it looks like Deontay Johnson is still there, and then Claypool's still there, but you don't know what those guys. But I like George Pickens. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's worth starting in fantasy because you just don't know what you're going to get from Pickett, and you don't know who's going to be the guy that gets the touchdowns and things like that. So it's really hard to trust those Steelers receivers. You're going to play Najee Harris because he's going to get most of the work, and he's a good running back.
Yeah, I
Um,
wouldn't. I kind of avoided Pittsburgh this year.
yeah, yeah. I know. I Najee, because of the foot injury in the preseason. I stayed away from him. I just didn't trust him. And
Yeah,
especially with the offense with Trubisky going in as quarterback, it was like, and look where that happened. So now it's Kenny Pickett, and we'll see what happens. And he has his flaws, he's throwing a lot of interceptions and stuff. But yeah, Eagles defense is gonna have a big game, and the Eagles are gonna roll in that one. Sunday night, we got the Green Bay Packers going up to Orchard Park to play the Buffalo Bills. And it's going to be a long, incredulously looking Aaron Rodgers. He's going to give that look of, like, what's happening here? He's always looking around, and he's all mad all the time because he has no
Green Bay,
receivers.
Green Bay in prime time this year. It hasn't been as bad as Denver Broncos, but
Yeah.
it's like let's get this guy off the prime time
It's going to
games.
be a beatdown of epic proportion. Aaron Rodgers might retire after the game. I feel like between it, like we talked about earlier, like who's going to retire first or who's going to retire in season, Brady or Rodgers? I mean, it's looking like after like this week, both of them are going to be mulling retirement because Packers are just going to get stomped by Buffalo. It's going to be Josh Allen's going to have a huge game. And they should be able to run the ball too. I think Devin Singletary could be viable. He's probably going to get some play out of the backfield. And then, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, got to play them all on the Packers side. Lazard's looking like he's not going to play.
Oh,
He's
really?
doubtful with the shoulder injury. So the Packers are down to like Sammy Watkins, who's nursing his own, I think, hamstring injury, and
Bunch of rookies.
Romeo Dobbs and Watson, and yeah, it's going to be a rough day. Aaron Jones are probably going to try and lean on, but with the where the game script's going to go, I'm sure Buffalo's going to get out to a pretty good lead, and Aaron Jones might catch some passes out of the backfield, so you're still going to play him. But I'm
Yeah.
not touching AJ Dillon like we talked about last week. AJ Dillon just doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
And even Rodgers as a starting quarterback, he's not the play anymore. So Buffalo's going to roll in that one.
You think Josh Allen's gonna have a big game?
Yeah, Josh Allen, man, that guy is a stud. Him and Hurts are going to have the two biggest weeks, I
Or
think, for
QB1 and
fantasy.
QB2?
Oh yeah, and it's going to be close, but both of those guys are going to be the top. So, Josh Allen's just a stud, man. You know how I feel about
Yeah.
Josh Allen.
I still I have him in so many leagues. I looked at my fantasy football teams last year. I looked at all the championship teams and playoff teams, and most common player on them,
Josh
Josh
Allen.
Allen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at picking up receivers and running backs during the season, but
Yeah.
you can't really pick up Josh Allen during the
No,
season.
no, you can't pick up QB1.
Yeah, yeah,
He's not growing on trees. We got the Titans and the Texans this week. It's going to be the battle of the running backs. How many runs are going to be going on? So Derrick Henry going against Texans, like worst run defense. He's going to have a big game. I mean, Derrick
yeah.
Henry is going to blow up. He's finally going to put up the numbers that we expect him to put up. See him having a 2-3 touchdown game against the
I
Texans.
think he averages like over 30 points a game against the Texans.
Yeah,
Because
it's going to be
something
big,
outrageous.
yeah.
Like I don't think this is gonna be a close game.
No, No, the Titans are going to roll them and they're going to run the ball a ton, and their defense has been playing good, so they should have they're going to win the game. And then, like we talked about last week, Damien Pierce, man, he's going to get his 20 plus carries, and just depending on game flow goes, but he's the only guy that you trust in that lineup that
Yeah.
to perform. And he hopefully he'll get a touchdown this week. I mean, but he's going to get the volume. He's been catching passes too, a couple passes each week. So Damian Pierce is a safe like RB2, I would say, for this week. So
I think it's going to be between the Texans and the Lions for that number one pick and QB of the future.
The Broncos and Jaguars. You got Russ on the plane doing high knees. He's getting ready for the game. Justin Tucker, the kicker, last night, he was on IG like making fun of Russ. He's doing his high knees on the plane too. So, Russ, he's like corny, but dude's like always coming up with some funny comments, like the Wolverine blood. He's got the high knees now on the plane, getting ready. He's let's ride. Like what a goof, man.
I think he's the only QB in the NFL that's besides maybe Jameis that is JCAT status, like emotionally unstable, and that's why so many people in Seattle like this guy's an idiot. Like this guy.
Yeah, there's definitely something missing. It feels like there's something missing with that guy. You got to be really calm. You got to be very analytic when it comes to reading the defenses and things like that. So I don't know how well Russell Wilson does that. And it's clear that he was good off script, and he did a lot of that in Seattle where, he would get out and then he would bomb it or he'd make a play with his legs. And that's what he was really good at. And now that he's kind of slowed down a little bit, he doesn't really have the accuracy that he once had going deep. And it's really showing on the Broncos that he's just, he's aged and he's just not that guy anymore. So it's going to be an ugly game in Denver.
I think the Jaguars is going to win big.
It's going to be a field goal game. Nah, field goal game, bro. That's a field goal game written all over it. You're going to see
Jaguars
Travis Etienne in his new starting role as the lone guy there in the backfield. I think he's the guy that you start and play because he's going to get some volume. But other than that, like, that's ugly.
I picked up Jermichael Hasty in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, he's a good handcuff, good backup. He'll probably spell him a few plays, but I feel like Etienne's going to get the majority of the work, and he's definitely one of those what do you call it, league winner type players at this point. He just kind of all of a sudden he just thrust into majority of the carry. He's going to catch the ball in the backfield. He's going to be a 3-down back. So he's going to have a good week, and he's really the only guy on both sides that I would even consider playing. Jaguars by a field goal. Commanders, Colts. I don't even know what there's to say about that game. Commanders, Colts. Do you got anything? Curtis Samuel?
I think the Colts are just immediately better.
The Colts don't have they bench Matt Ryan. Ryan. Yeah, I think you want to talk about Matt Ryan benching.
What's there to talk about? Another quarterback. This year has been all about the quarterback that's past his prime.
Yeah,
and should have retired last year.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe a year before that.
Like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson should just
Wilson, Carson Wentz. Like the list goes on and on. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo here. Hopefully he can turn around. Jimmy, come on, buddy. We need you. So yeah, Commanders, Colts. It's gonna be a grind it game. Probably not gonna be a lot of points scored. Got Taylor, what is it? Heineke? Taylor Heineke?
Taylor Heineke, yeah. He's only viable in 2 QB leagues. And
yeah, that's going to be a low-scoring game. Probably not going to be much action. Jonathan Taylor is probably going to get some carries. And Sam Ellinger? I don't even know his name. It doesn't even matter because you're not going to play him. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the Giants and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good game, I think. The Seahawks are, Geno Gino looking spry, huh?
That's
Gino.
that's gonna be a tough game for the Giants. I feel
Yeah.
like the
Yeah. In Seattle. So
Seahawks have been playing really well, and everybody counts them out every week. They're like saying the other team's gonna win,
yeah.
and Seahawks just take that personally and just
Yeah. They beat
just
LA, they went
yeah
down to SoFi and they beat the Chargers.
yeah.
We talked about that a little bit. The Seahawks fans outnumbered them for sure. And
Gino and Kenneth Walker
yeah, Kenneth Walker, man, we
and
talked about him last week.
yeah
We said
and
that dude's a stud, man. You got to play him. So he's the definition of a league winner. I know that we said ETN, but Kenneth Walker, if that dude stays healthy, that dude has got the juice,
yeah.
man. He's a player. So between him and Gino playing well, I know that DK Metcalf is probably going to be out this week. He had that patellar knee injury, so we'll see how long he's out for.
I picked up
But
Marquise Goodwin in a
yeah,
lot of
Marquise
leagues.
Goodwin's the play to pick up. So he had a good game after Metcalf went out, and he's a speedster, so they're going to be using him downfield, same way they use Metcalf, and he has trouble with catching the ball sometimes. He has some drops, but he might catch a long touchdown pass for sure. The Giants have a good defense, so I think the Giants are going to pull out the game, even though it's in Seattle. But I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle gets the win. That it can happen. And then Saquon against Seattle, they don't have a good run defense this year, and Saquon's going to have a big game. He's going to blow up this week. I would say between him and Henry, talking about like RB1, RB2
I
status.
missed. I really missed the boat on the Saquon resurrection
Yeah.
tour. Of
Mm-hmm.
I really missed it and kind of kicking myself. But
Yeah.
uh, Daniel Jones is going to be a good play. I picked him up in any leagues he was still available and plugged him in. And
Yeah.
because has some quarterback issues with a few teams, and he's a good play because he gets all those rushing yards. I think he's gonna have a good game as well. I think he's gonna have a better game than Gino, but
Yeah. Yeah, Daniel Jones runs the ball. He's like decent running quarterback, right? Like he's quick and he gets out there and you're like, oh man, this guy can scoot, like he's a big dude. Like he's an athlete. Like if I think
I,
mentally with Brian Daboll, as far as like being able to read the defenses and make the proper plays, as he progresses, he could turn into a pretty good quarterback. So we'll see as
yeah,
the year progresses how he progresses. But they're already playing well under with him, and I think the Giants should win this game. But Seattle definitely will give them a run for their money. It's going to be a tight game. The Monday night game, dun 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 dun, right? Monday Night Football. It's not that great a matchup. Got Cleveland Browns versus the Cincinnati Bengals. A tough
the Battle of
grind 'em
Ohio.
AFC North division, grind it out football game.
All the teams that passed on Jimmy G are kicking themselves, but Jimmy G is not
Yeah.
even playing that well. But Cleveland was like
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett is gonna get
Jacoby
us to
Brissett,
five
come
and
on.
two,
Yeah, no.
and
They're going to be out of it before Deshaun Watson gets back in week 13
yeah,
because, they're going to lose this week to Cincinnati. I know
they're gonna
big
lose.
loss for Cincinnati, though, with Jamar Chase being out, but I still think Cincinnati has enough. And Cleveland's run defense, I see Joe Mixon, having a good game finally. I think this is the
I
Joe
picked up
Mixon.
Tyler Boyd and like off the
Yeah,
waivers
Tyler
in
Boyd
all my leagues.
is a pickup. And then Michael Thomas was another guy. So,
Mike
he's in.
Thomas.
Yeah, Mike Thomas for Cincinnati. Another pickup, another, sleeper kind of guy that, is going to take over now that Jamar Chase is going to be out for a few weeks. But,
Yeah,
to Tyler Boyd, like last week, Tyler Boyd blew up. Like some dude played him against me and he had like 30 plus points. I'm like, what? Where did this come from, bro? It was so annoying. But, we talked about last week that Joe Burrow was going to go off. We talked about it. We said Atlanta didn't have the corners. They were injured in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and like Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Everybody
I
went
think
off last week. And then so this week we're looking again Joe Burrow should have a decent week, but I think it's going to be more of a run first approach with them because Cleveland's run defense isn't that great.
I still think Joe Burrow is gonna have a good game. He's had like a few good games in a row, and
Yeah.
even with Chase out, I still think use the play action and pass a lot. He's gonna go off again. The offensive line has been playing a lot better. The first couple of weeks, the first few weeks, like their offensive line was shaky, and
Yeah.
they had like 15 and 16 sacks in the first 3 games, and
Yeah.
then I had a feeling before the season I went hard on Joe Burrow and Chase in a few
Yeah.
leagues, and I had a feeling that with offensive line being better, that they would have more time to bank plays and have better games this year than even though Burrow went off last year. I think he's
Yeah.
gonna have a better year this year.
Yeah. I can see that for sure. I mean, Burrow's looking like he's a stud, top 5 QB for sure this year. So, I'm definitely starting him every week. So
Yeah,
if you got him in the later rounds, you're happy because, there was a certain amount of quarterbacks that you could take. And then some people made the mistake of taking Rodgers or Brady, and like they just haven't been good this year. So if you
yeah,
took Burrow instead, you're definitely really happy because you got him in the later rounds and he's, top 5 QB. So Cincinnati's going to win this game. It's probably not going to be close. I don't think Cleveland's that good. But, you're going to see Nick Chubb's going to run the ball. Nick Chubb's been a stud. So I would still start Nick Chubb. And Amari Cooper, is a decent play at wide receiver.
and
But
Kareem Hunt, you can't really play him.
no, I think they might trade him. So
Yeah,
I can see them keeping him sidelined. I can see that as a scenario on Monday night. Like, yeah, because the trade deadline is probably like, I want to say it's like the next day or something like that. So I can see them like holding him out especially if they're shopping him. So,
yeah,
I wouldn't rely on Kareem Hunt on Monday night to do much. Like he might even not even play. So something to keep an eye on for sure. That does it for this week's episode of the PVG Football Podcast. See how we do as far as the winners go and how our predictions went. But
doing all
we're
these hot takes makes me tired.
getting
I
burned,
need
buddy.
I need I need to take a nap now. Sandwich and a nap. Same bat channel, same bat time.
All right. We all set for this week. Catch us next week for more fire takes and the right picks, right? We're
Yeah,
on fire. We were on fire last week. We'll see.
yeah.
We'll see how we do this weekend, and we'll let you know. We'll let you know. Peace out.